Hello and welcome to The Ripple Impact, the podcast where we dive into those fascinating small moments, big decisions and unexpected ripples that create waves of change in brands, businesses, leadership and in life. I'm Laura Barber, founder of The Ripple Impact and a global brand strategist who spent over 20 years inside global giants like Coca-Cola and PepsiCo. I now work with founders and brand leaders on strategy, positioning and storytelling, helping leaders turn human stories into brand growth. Each week, I sit down with bold thinkers, founders, and what we call wave maker guests to explore the ripple moments that have shaped their journeys and the lessons you can take into your business and your life. Today, I'm incredibly honoured to have Toby Freeman with us. Toby is the founder and CEO of the Robin Cancer Trust, a passionate cancer advocate and the host of Thrive Against Cancer podcast after losing his brother to testicular cancer at just 24. Toby turned unimaginable loss into a mission to save lives, breaking down stigma, starting conversations, and getting young men to take action. Toby's story is one of purpose, courage, and turning pain into impact. Toby, welcome to the show. It is such a pleasure to have you here with us today.
Thank you very much for having me. It's nice to be on the other side for once.
Yeah.
Usually I'm hosting.
Yeah, it's lovely being a guest, isn't it? When you host a podcast, you're like, oh, I'm just waiting for the questions.
There's no pressure. It's lovely.
Yeah, exactly. You can just tell us your story. So talking about your story, I do want to start right at the beginning and the moment that really changed everything for you, the ripple that you didn't ask for and that has shaped everything since. Can you take us back to that time, really tragically losing your brother and what that shifted in that moment? Take us back to that story.
Yeah, of course. Oh God, we're going back nearly 15 years now. So I'm 22, my brother's 24, very close. We did most things together. He was a very sensible head. I was the younger brother. I'll leave that there. Probably the wilder child. But yeah, I'd over this 10-month period, my brother was diagnosed in January and I'd watched him go from prime of his life, 24, starting his career, really health conscious, fit, active, healthy. Like I said, annoyingly had his life together at a young age. He was the old sensible head that used to get me to football and clean my boots and pay my subs and all that. And I'd watched him be ill, not know why he was ill. Obviously now we know these were signs and symptoms that were just dragging on, getting worse and worse. Eventually we were told he had this mediastinal germ cell tumour and that came out of nowhere. We'd never been a cancer family. We'd been a heart disease and diabetes family. So I knew about those and I knew the risks, but I didn't know anything about cancer. And you watch this person that you idolise go from the prime of their life to literally through these grueling chemotherapies, grueling treatments to holding his hand on his deathbed and going through that moment and just feeling very, very alone through that process. There was no information out there about this. We didn't know young people could get cancer. We didn't know that there were signs and symptoms to look out for. And we never really discussed this with Rob. We had this sort of internal thing in the family that you'll never just be a photograph on the wall. I grew up, my uncle passed before I was born. So we grew up not knowing our uncle. So he was always a photo on the wall to us. We heard the stories and everything. And our family kept him alive that way. So I think my brother wanted to do that, move forwards, but don't just have me as a photo. Talk about me, keep me alive in your memories. And after he passed, you're lost, right? I'm going through a lot of emotions and, there's a much bigger story here, but to condense it down, you're sat there afterwards as a family and you want something good to come of it. That was the conversation. What can we do? And I remember my dad very clearly saying at the time, if we're going to do something, it's got to be meaningful. There's got to be a reason for it. Someone else has to not already be doing it because we can support other people. Yeah. And we need to do something that isn't a grief reaction. This is going to outlast us. And that's always sort of been the ethos of how we've built the charity. And we looked around and there was no information out there about these germ cell tumours, which Rob's was. That includes testicular and ovarian. So I was at a time of life where I had my parents supporting me and just said, right, if you want to do this, go and find out all the questions and the answers. And the idea for the Robin Cancer Trust was born through, if this can happen to Rob, this can happen to anyone. There were signs and symptoms. They were ignored. There was things that he could have done to advocate. There were things that were missed by doctors because he was young. How do we fill that gap? How do we go out and educate and engage young people about their health? Not fear-mongering, in a way that will resonate with them. And my brother always had a wicked sense of humour. So we went straight with the humorous approach and the idea for talking bollocks and not overreacting were born. Classic, everyone loves a pun. And they've sort of just escalated over the years into these bigger and bolder campaigns. So yeah, the need was born through going through it. We went through it. We felt lost. We felt alone as a family. We didn't know anyone else was affected by this. And as we've done this, it's become more and more about the people we help, less about Rob. Rob is our inspiration. He is our story, is the seed of the idea and our why, to prevent another family going through what we did. But actually, as we've grown the charity, more people get involved, more people we help, more people we save their lives. And it's just become about their stories. And it's just been an amazing journey watching it go from something that is hyper personal to actually, this is all about everyone else. My internal drivers are my own, but the external drivers are helping other people, making sure that they've got the support they need. And now we do the education, awareness and support. So it's, it's been a hell of a journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And we won't linger too long on this, but obviously it's such a difficult, raw, emotional, sensitive topic. And I'm sure there's people listening, triggered in some way, shape or form, maybe going through this too, have someone that's gone through this. For anyone that is going through loss and or grief right now, what would you tell them? What lessons have you learned that you would share with them?
God, learn from my mistakes. I would say finding space for yourself. Self-care isn't selfish. I think it's such a whirlwind. It's such a tornado when you're in it. One of the most difficult parts about grief is it affects everyone around you as well. So the most impactful thing I did was my now wife kicked me up the butt very hard, saying, you need to go and get grief counselling. You need to go and talk to a professional about this, because I wasn't coping with it at all in any healthy way. And having that space to talk to a third party that wasn't emotionally invested in it, that could just be a safe haven away from all the chaos and all the noise, was life-saving for me. It completely changed the whole direction of my life. Strangely, I only needed 6 counselling sessions, which was the offer from our local hospice at the time. But just the fallback of them saying, we're here if you need us. You can come back at any time. You can have 6 more sessions. It was transformative for me. So I would say finding a place where you can be around people or someone, I would suggest a professional, that can just offer a listening ear and give you the support you need in those moments without the emotional attachment to it, is incredibly, incredibly impactful. And then obviously I would suggest healthy coping mechanisms rather than the self-destructive ones, which are perhaps easier to fall into. Things like keeping a routine, things like keeping moving, keeping your body moving. All of those things really do play a part, and just finding any sort of purpose in a day. And we talk a lot about purpose in our worlds, don't we? And I think purpose can mean so much. One day, it's so different for different people. One day that could literally be just getting up and making a bed, and that's enough on the tough days. And other days it might be supporting a cause or helping someone else or giving back. But I think just taking your own journey at your own pace is really important, not comparing. Everyone's grief is different. There's a lot of comparisons between my grief is worse than yours, or this is more impactful on mine, or the guilt of mine. My grief shouldn't feel as impactful because you've had a bigger grief. None of that matters. Grief is personal it's a reaction to the loss we feel, the love that we can no longer express. So just being kind to yourself and finding some space for self-care is really, really important.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that, because it's not necessarily the topic for today, but I think it's so important when we bring these topics up that people can go, I'm feeling this too. Like, where can I get help? How can I take the next step? Like, what does that look like? What did you do? How can I learn from that? So thank you so much for sharing that. What was the moment that you realized that you wanted to create something much bigger in terms of this movement, right? Talk us through the journey from that conversation with your father, wanting to do something, using humor, using boldness. We're going to talk about marathons and running, but costumes, and tell us the journey from, I really want this to change other people's lives and for no other family to go through what we've gone through, to creating what you've done now, because it's so incredible to see the work that you're doing. Talk us through that journey.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of pressure for people to feel like purpose comes as some sort of big bang moment. Like suddenly you wake up in the middle of the night and you go, Eureka, I found my purpose. And I think a lot of young people especially feel this pressure to, why aren't I driving? Why don't I have this burning every day I wake up, ecstatically happy with my job, with my purpose, with my impact in the world? And actually, I think a better analogy is just like breadcrumbs. Purpose is sprinkled slowly throughout breadcrumbs. And a lot of it is just exploring the wild forest of what's out there and just following a breadcrumb that feels right in that moment. And if you lose a trail, go back to something else and try another breadcrumb trail. And eventually you find your way to realizing you've got a purpose. It's like a slow dawn. At no point have I ever gone, yes, I didn't sit 15 years ago, go, right, we're going to have a small national charity doing this, and this. You just explore what feels right, what works, what people resonate with. And sometimes you just trust your gut and, fail fast is a big thing I've learned. Failure has to come quick, fast, and the lessons learned. But yeah, there's no shining moment. It's just exploring things that are out there. What resonates with you? What feels good? What brings you joy? What brings other people joy? What fills your cup up? It's all those sort of things. And purpose can, again, means I'm at a very extreme scale of it in that I've been through something very traumatic. I've had the opportunities and the privilege and the support around me like this. There's no way I couldn't say that I haven't had those advantages. I quit my job when Rob was terminal. My parents said, yes, you're living at home, quit your job. We want to spend this time as a family. And then they gave me the space to explore what does a charity look like. I mean, I eventually had to get another job and I did those two things alongside each other, but my job at the time were brilliant. Again, I went into that and said, I want to try and build this charity. So I only want a part-time job. I had that opportunity. Like I said, I was supported by my parents at that time too. So there are advantages that come with me finding my purpose that other people might not have. We set out to help just one. We said, we're going to help one other person. That's it. You don't set out to change the world. You set out to change one life. And then if you achieve that, you go, can we replicate that? And that was the goal. I think my dad having that conversation, that wasn't, again, a big striking moment. It's something I've reflected on years and years afterwards. And you can see that ethos of what we've done from the very get-go. Again, my family, it was all four of us. I'm the face of the charity now, but there was the four members of the family, my eldest brother, my mum, my dad. We were the trustees of the charity when we started it, and we grew it together. It's a family-led thing. I've just, I'm still there. My dad is still on the trustee board. My mum and my brother stepped away for personal reasons, but I couldn't have done it without their support. And my dad's been there from the very get-go, and he is the most straight down the line, straight shooter. Everything's been done right. Minute taking, transparency, accounting, all of that was led by my dad. So I've had the privilege of focusing on the fun stuff and going, right, we're going to do all this humorous stuff. What resonates? Right, talking bollocks is really working. Should we try stickers? Should we try posters, temporary tattoos? What does the branding look like? What does the social media look like? So again, loads of stuff hasn't worked. You see this end goal of what's happening now and you think, oh, that's brilliant. Nothing's an overnight success. We've had world record attempts that have failed. We've had campaigns that have failed. We've put money into videos that haven't worked, but no one sees any of that, do they? You see the impact, and we don't tend to shout about the failures too much, but it's just following the little breadcrumbs of where it works. And I found my passion over the years has gone from effectively what would be like, a digital media officer role. Back in the day, growing the social media, doing Facebook posts, that was what the charity was born of. Now I thoroughly thrive in big strategic meetings and partnerships with national partners. So I've grown with the role. So my purpose and my passion has followed different breadcrumbs along, and I've just, again, been lucky enough to bring excellent people into the charity when I've hit a capacity limit who are far more intelligent and far better at their jobs than I am, and they excel in those roles. And I guess that's the key learning for building a great team is have no ego and bring brilliant people into your organizations, and things you see a compounding effect from that. Over the last few years, the charity has just skyrocketed because we've had amazing people doing it. Like I say, Laura, I'm lucky to sit on these podcasts and talk about what I think I've learned, but there's an amazing team of trustees, volunteers, and staff members that drive the whole thing forward.
Yeah, amazing. And to have those people by your side and that guiding light and the advice and the structure and the learnings. But also I loved the comment that you made earlier around your dad saying, let's not make this a grief reaction, but let's make this something really sustainable that's really going to live. And I think that's such lovely advice, actually, in terms of the reaction nature of creating something in any way, shape, or form, in any form of life, but doing something that's really going to be sustainable, really going to stick, and really have an impact. So how would you describe the charity now versus where it was then? Like, what's your mission now? What are you doing now? It's a very timely week, isn't it? Because you're
Yes.
about to do something fantastic and you've just come off something fantastic too. So tell us what you're up
Yeah.
to now and tell us how the charity's evolved and what your mission and day-to-day activities look like.
Yeah, of course. So it's Testicular Cancer Awareness Month for us, which is a huge month. So the charity sits in a really strange place, a unique place that we do testicular and ovarian cancer awareness that fall under germ cell cancers because my brother had this rare form of testicular cancer in his chest as a primary. So we sit at this sort of intersection with reproductive organs. So we've just come out of March, which is Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month, straight into Testicular Cancer Awareness Month. And the charity, we focus on three things. We do awareness, education, and support. So our awareness still is very social based. We aim at young people. So 15 to 45-year-olds is our target demographic. So anything from late secondary school all the way up to, shall I say, elder millennials, perhaps, might be our audience, which I'm very much teetering on that as well.
Me too.
So yeah, it's about breaking stigma, reducing embarrassment, and making conversations happen that create actions. Basically, we're all in we live in the behaviour change world. You know, everything we do, all the conversations we have, we want to drive a behaviour change, whether that's empowering someone to go to their doctors, checking themselves once a month, or even just normalizing those conversations within their peer groups. So we go to schools, colleges, unis, all across the country and businesses and deliver these workshops and these talks directly to young people. We attend loads of freshers fairs and music festivals and pride events, just reaching that demographic. And then anyone that's affected anywhere in the UK, we work with NHS trusts all across the country to support people. So we give out free cancer support packs. We have communities and peer-to-peer support that we facilitate as well. So again, just normalizing all of that holistic support, making sure people can get anything. And we also support family and friends as well. We have a WhatsApp group for those so people can ask candid questions because it's actually really difficult being a caregiver. That can be really lonely as well. So we work really closely. A big thing for us is lived experience. So throughout the charity, from trustee, volunteer staff, and on our panels that we have for our medical advisory board and our Thriver community, lived experience is really strong for us. So we just make sure people are telling us what they need. That's our job as a charity, right? Listen to our community, facilitate as best we can the services that they need. And we work with loads of partners across the UK. And in my role as a CEO, obviously you're always sort of pushing what more impact can I have? What capacity do I have? Like I say, I've got an amazing team. So I thought if we're going to talk about breaking stigma, reducing embarrassment, I will go to the extreme ends of that. I do like a bit of running. How can I mash my two loves, which is big testicles and breaking stigma and running? And I've created this giant well, it's a ball bag costume. There's no other way of saying it, really. And I run around like a sort of 7-foot testicle, marathons, ultra marathons, half marathons, 10Ks, all across the country. And I've run over 500 kilometers in that, sparked some amazing conversations. I ran across Hadrian's Wall and a little bit further. I basically did coast to coast across the top of the England last year. And I've just come off Brighton. We're a few days off Brighton Marathon, and I've got London coming up very, very soon as well.
A London Marathon this weekend, really exciting. So very timely podcast.
Absolutely.
So many things to unpack there. Let's start with, why do you think conversations around men's health in particular is still so difficult? You know, we still have this, I mean, is it still true that a lot of men don't even go to the doctors? You know, there's embarrassment or shame or I don't need to go, I'm fine. Like, why do you think that still exists? Why aren't we having enough conversations around men's health?
Yeah, men's health is a really tricky one. And we, like I say, we work with both men and women with the campaigns, and they're very different. That's something that again, you follow the breadcrumbs on those. The female campaigns are very much about peer-to-peer conversations are happening. This is about empowering you to listen to your body and basically advocate for your health more, because the conversations we hear from survivors and people that have been affected is, I was ignored. I was told it was X, Y, and Z, but I knew something was wrong with my body. So it's very much empowering, very much about advocacy. The male conversation is still just about breaking stigma and getting men into the doctors. So there's still those barriers. And the theory I've been floating for a while now is when we hit puberty, with women, peer-to-peer conversations are happening. Periods are not stigmatized between women. It is supported. People are talked about, and those peer-to-peer conversations and that support is happening. Those eye-to-eye conversations are happening. the old anecdote with guys is we can't do eye to eye. We talk in
Mm.
parallel, shoulder to shoulder. That's why we're good in cars, but we will never sit in a support circle and talk about things. And, the general consensus at puberty for men is it all becomes about banter. The toxic masculinity kicks in, and it's,
Yeah.
voices breaking, balls have dropped, whose pubes have kicked in. It's all whose facial hair,
Mm.
it's all that. It's all a negative impact. So we ingrain medical issues with negativity in our heads from early in our sort of formative years. And then peer-to-peer conversations stop. So we're trying to rekindle that. So we flip the toxic masculinity on its head. We use banter as a tool. We have a laugh. We do sit in a sort of grey area. We will sort of use swear words here, and we'll have a joke, push the line when we're out in the community to start those conversations. But then we start breaking down the real conversations about our health, and people do start opening up. People want permission. Men especially want permission to talk. And that's something we talk about a lot, is actually the humour is such a great icebreaker because it allows permission for men to talk. We are also always making ourselves the butt of the joke. We're standing there in a giant testicle costume, or we're standing there with silly stickers on, or we're standing there in our testicle cutouts that we have. So we're the butt of the joke. So you can laugh at me. I'm giving you permission to laugh at me. But then you're then giving me permission to say, here's how you check yourself. So it's a really tricky one, but there's a lot of work to be done. But we have some great partners out there, and it really resonates with people. People want the permission. They just don't know how to find it. So that is the space that we provide online, at events, and in person when we're delivering these talks.
Yeah, amazing. I love the way that you talk about humor as the role in the communication and breaking down some of the barriers and kind of breaking through the fear a little bit. Because it's interesting because laughter and jokes have a physiological effect on the body, right? As when you laugh, you do actually physiologically relax as well. So there's a really interesting play there, but also cutting through the noise and all the content and using humor to really stand out, which is amazing. The other thing that really struck me in what you were saying there, which I think is so insightful, is the eye-to-eye women conversations around bodies, health, periods. Although, interestingly, last week I had a lady on my podcast who is talking about period poverty actually around the world, and women not necessarily having the products, having the conversations, but not necessarily having the products. It's interesting what you were saying around women having that eye-to-eye conversation about issues and men being side by side. I think is really fascinating insight. You should do a carpool karaoke type thing, because that would be amazing. The conversations that happen when you're not necessarily looking at each other. Because I think that is so insightful about men who feel much more comfortable in cars than they do face to face. I think there's something really in that.
I don't think anyone needs to hear me sing, but I do love the idea. Yeah, and we talk to partners in the male health sphere, mental health clubs, for example. A lot of them will just bring guys together to do something. Fix a lawnmower is the sort of example, because once you get guys doing something, we do open up, we do start talking. All we need is that one person. We find this a lot with our advocates when they're out in the community. They're like, people come to me about all sorts. And I'm like, yeah, that's because they know you're open to talking about things. They know that if you're talking about testicular cancer, which again, on the stigma scale is quite high. It's a part we don't really talk about. It's not like talking about your shoulder or your knee or, a skin blemish. It's talking about a private part. So we sit quite high over here, and people know when you're happy to talk about that, you can talk about anything else on the spectrum as well. So mental health comes up, other health issues come up, other private health issues come up. So yeah, it really is that permission. But yeah, if you just get a group of guys doing something together where they're not having to look at each other and lie, fixing a lawnmower, for example, then they start talking about mental health. It goes from silly banter to, actually, times are a bit tough, or this has happened, or we will eventually open up. We just need an environment that we're comfortable in. Just never force it, I think, is the one. And I think eye contact forces a vulnerability that a lot of men don't want to feel.
Yeah, it's quite intense, isn't it? In terms of that eye contact. So I want to talk about the London Marathon. You've just come off Brighton Marathon and you're about to do London Marathon, as you said, in your giant testicle outfit. How's the training going? How are you feeling? How are your legs after Brighton? How are you preparing for this Sunday?
Yeah, it's a difficult one to prepare in because the costume is almost too big to keep in my house, so I never get to train in it. All my training runs are just marathons that I have to do. So Brighton was quite.
Where do you keep the testicles? Are they in the shed?
We have a lockup. I'm very lucky. We have a lockup that I keep it in. I think my wife is very happy that we have a lockup as well. But yeah, it happens. I love it. It's a really bizarre feeling. People go absolutely bonkers for it in the best way. I couldn't have expected the reaction I get. London is quite overwhelming anyway, in a beautiful way. There are so many people on the streets. You know, you go to London, everyone jokes, everyone's kind of angry and busy and rushing around. It's not like that on London Marathon Day. Everyone is there to cheer and go absolutely wild and have the best time. And it's start to finish, which is rare for a marathon. You'll usually get patches. Brighton is beautiful for the people. They're so welcoming. It's absolutely incredible. But there are bits where you're on your own. You're running out towards the marina and it's a bit quiet and you get in your head. But London's not like that. So I just take it slow, thoroughly enjoy it. I want to soak up everything. I want to do all the high fives, have the Haribo, have the conversations, and just soak it up. Especially when you're going to places like London Bridge, there's thousands, if not tens of thousands of people literally shouting your name. I've got Toby written across people know what it is. They go Toby Testicles and Mr. Scrotum, Big Balls and everything. But having that many people shouting at you and cheering is actually quite emotionally overwhelming because you're doing it for a really important cause. You're running along, you might see friends, you might see families, you see other runners going through all the things that happen in a marathon. There's the highs of realizing you're doing something really cool and bringing a lot of attention to it, but also the lows of realizing why you're doing it as well. Because, when you're sort of 24 miles in and you're completely exhausted, your emotions get a bit away with you. And I think there's always an underlying privilege that come with it. I can't ever complain at how bad a marathon can get. It's not an easy feat, but my body's able to do it. I know I'll get to the finish line. That is a privilege denied to so many people. And it's just, amazing. Just what a experience to be able to do something and have all that support and just have that many eyes on the cause. And it's growing and it's growing every year. I did Brighton and London last year. I did Brighton again recently, and so many more people knew. They were expecting to look out for it. So, it's almost like the rhinos. Everyone knows the rhinos at London. Sort of just become a staple of, the bull bag, I assume, will be here at some point, which is nice. And we've had some really good exposure. We've been on the BBC, we go on the radio a lot. We've had some ITV coverage as well. So that's helped amplify it. So people shout at me, I heard you on Jeremy Vine, or I saw you on the TV the other day. And it's really incredible seeing it grow. And then I get messages, I get runners come up to me, which is so nice. Mid-race, people telling me their stories, people when you're in the event village sort of mulling around before the race come up and take pictures and tell me about their journeys, and get messages afterwards on social media as well. People just dropping me a line saying, thank you for doing this. And like I say, you only ever do it to help one person, and then you see the impact and you see how it is really breaking the stigma and really is raising awareness and starting important conversations. It's only 26 miles. If you can have an impact like that, it's worth every mile of it. So absolutely.
Yeah, it's just so inspiring and so incredible. I've never done a marathon myself, just the physical feat of it alone, let alone doing it in a giant costume. How can you actually even run in it? Like
Oh, it was designed for running, I have to admit. I'm pretty lucky. I see the rhinos. I talk about the rhinos a lot because they weigh like 25 kilos and they can barely see anything. They are absolute heroes. Mine, I've got my legs out. I had some pockets built in this year, so I'm very happy with that. I had some extra pubes and some pockets built in because I just wanted it to be a bit more visually striking, and the pockets really help because I can keep all my gels and stuff in there. And actually it's big. It's made of foam. Everyone thinks it's inflatable, but it's made of foam, like a hard, lightweight foam. So it sits on me really well. I've got these really nice straps, and it was made with running in mind, I have to admit. And you can always find a guy to create a giant bull bag costume somewhere in the world. And I'm very lucky to know that chap.
So good, so good. And as you said, it does have real impact, and it does really stand out, because we first got talking because you sent me a message on LinkedIn and said, would you mind sharing this on your platform? And I was like, I can do one better than that. I've got a podcast. Would you like to come along? But as you said, because as soon as your picture comes up, I was like, what's this all about?
Yeah.
Because you get so many messages, so many emails. Your job is cutting through the clutter, right? You're
Yeah.
creating a brand, you're creating impact, you're creating standout. And it absolutely does that because you're intrigued instantly. Like, what on earth is this? I'm definitely going to explore this a little bit. So
Yeah.
you're creating a brand, aren't you? You're creating a conversation. You're creating a very iconic thing. So well done to you.
Well, thank you. I've spent years trying to be a responsible and serious CEO and be taken, like work on these really important issues. Then I just run around testicle and people really resonate with it. I go to a network and people are like, are you the guy? I'm like, if it's a giant ball bag, the answer is going to be
Yeah,
yes.
that's me.
But effectively like the Mr. Blobby of the testicular cancer world at this point. But it's amazing. The response is really,
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
good. Love it.
But we joke, but I mean, everyone is so bombarded and overloaded with messages. We're almost going into a bit of a content crisis of, right, so much stuff is available online through social media and the ability to cut through the clutter. What advice would you give to brands and businesses that are trying to cut through the clutter? Yeah, you guys are doing it brilliantly. What advice would you give to others that are really trying to stand out and get that message out there?
Yeah, I think no matter what you're doing, it has to feel, it's such a buzzword, but it has to feel authentic, doesn't it? There is the attention market is so short and we're all crying out for a piece. And you can cut through with some very risky, very ridiculous things. But if it doesn't feel authentic to your values, to your cause, to your, whatever it's doing, whatever you're trying to sell to the world, we're selling the idea of breaking stigma, we're selling, supporting the cause, we're selling all of that. People will see right through it and they won't resonate with it and they won't want to engage with it. Ours is a very extreme example of it, but it has a really important message afterwards. We're not just YouTube pranksters trying to just get more views on something. There's a really important, that's what people resonate with the cause and the why behind it. So I think that's the key. And I think that's something where charities have an advantage. We have to set our values very early. That's core to building a charity is who are we? What are we? And I think we're quite bold in those as well. We often talk about we're not for everyone. That's okay. Not everyone wants big, hairy testicles. Not everyone wants big, bold brand things. Some people want a more sensible feel. We obviously, we demographically are very young adult focused as well. And obviously these cancers can affect anyone of any age. We will support anyone of any age. But if someone comes to us and goes, this feels a bit silly for me, do you know a different charity? We have loads of partners that we will work with and we will get people the support they need because that might have a different feel or a different support group or just a different tone about it. So again, just knowing who we are, who we serve and why we're doing everything. That's the key. When you're talking about content, why are you doing it? If it ticks your values and it's applicable to your target audience, basically you always want it to be defensible. If you can go, right, I'm Joe Blogs and I'm watching this, am I going to go, why are you saying that? Why are you doing that? Because we put out, again, some really risky things. We put out, can I swear on this podcast?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, right, fine. Well, during COVID, we literally had no income. We were based solely on community events. We got decimated. We had $7,500 income that entire year, 21. So we had to put out an emergency appeal. Saw loads of amazing emergency appeals from loads of charities, but they were boring to me because they were always the same thing. Sad pictures. We don't have any money. COVID, yada, yada. We just put out a campaign called We're Fucked. And that was it. It was like the charity's going to end if we don't get support. We're fucked. Can you give us some money, please? And that was like just a camera piece, not much about it. But we got a bit of backlash about it. And we're like, well, this is the reality. We're not going to exist. We could back it up. We said it went with our values. We were aiming at our audience and everyone loved it and it saved the charity. So it was defensible. It went by who we were and our values and it was authentic to us and it was truthful. So it really resonated with the people we wanted it to resonate with. Some people said we shouldn't have been swearing. It's like, well, what do you want? A swear word or us to not exist anymore?
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I think that's the key. It's not just doing things for doing things' sakes is the most important thing.
Yeah, amazing. And as you said, something really honest, really authentic, really true, really timeless. Like if we don't do this now, as you said, we're fucked. Like help. And I think that's when people, it's almost like brand and business vulnerability, isn't it? We talk about vulnerability quite a lot as such a superpower. If people can be vulnerable with each other, doors open, conversations open, like you've talked about. But I think it's true in business too. When people hold up a mirror and go, actually, this is the situation, people go, oh, wow, okay, can I help? And actually, I think people genuinely do want to help. It's just sometimes it's just cutting through, isn't it?
And it's one of the superpowers of the charity sector is we are built on storytelling, which actually I think the corporate
Mm.
sector don't do very well and can come across incredibly inauthentic.
Yeah.
They shoehorn storytelling into things where you're like, you're clearly just trying to make money. And sometimes I don't think that fits very well. Whereas again, the charity sector, our superpower is authentic human stories. That is, we live in that world day by
Yeah.
day. We see the impact. And if we can tap into that, that's the why. That's the thing that resonates. The attention grabbing thing feeds into that unique storytelling, that impact. Why am I doing this? That's why you see so many corporates now. Everyone's doing cause-based marketing, aren't they? Because they realize perhaps as a corporate, we're a bit faceless. We don't have much to sell. But if we can leverage a cause, then that's a better way for us to pique that human interest. You know, it's fear, love, and laughter we talk a lot about. You know, they're the three main things that people resonate with. If you're tapping into one of those, and we try and do laughter most of that, then people are going to resonate with it.
Yeah. And as you said, I mean, singing my tune, which is authentic human storytelling, which is absolutely what my business is built on, and absolutely helping businesses and corporations do that. And it's interesting the language you used around businesses leveraging a cause. And that's what it shouldn't be. It should be authentically rooted in who you are, why you exist, how you're trying to change the world and people's lives. And then it doesn't feel like you're leveraging something. Actually, it feels authentic and right. It's like, okay, yeah, that makes total sense. I totally get why they're doing that. But I think that's often what's missing is this bolt on and this, how do we leverage the opportunity to, rather than it being something that's, as you said, deeply weaved into your values, your mission, your cause, what you believe in, and what the change you're trying to bring in the world. So I think that's a really powerful lesson for businesses and for brands.
Yeah. If you get that wrong, I think audiences can see through it a mile away as well. That bolt-on effect, or it's either, is this ingrained? Does this stand true? Can we see this at every asset, every point that we have a touch point with your charity or your corporate, your business? Or does this feel like just, a bolt on, like you say? Is this just a singular marketing campaign? We see a lot of this in the awareness months, don't we? Are they just bolt on, or do you actually live this day in, day out? Does this stand true? Will you stand 10 toes down and die on that hill? Charities have to do that day in, day out. That is what we're built for, but corporates can. Virtue signal, am I saying that right? I think that's sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. It's the charity version of the greenwashing, isn't it? When you see businesses, talking sustainability, you're like, really? Is that, do you really have sustainability at your heart? It's the same with this, right? Do you really have cause and purpose at your heart? And if you don't, then you need to think really carefully about what you're doing and the intent and why you're doing it in the first place.
Absolutely.
Has there been anything that's really surprised you about the ripple impact of your work? Has there been a moment where you've just been like, wow?
Yeah, I've had a bit of a month actually. This month has felt a bit of a wow, what have we created sort of moment. I think I don't often look back. There's a very few times. I'm always driving forwards, and it's just, you're building something for years and years and years, and you just get very forward focused. I can only think of a few times where I've stopped and actually gone, wow, we're doing a thing here. But this month just gone, we launched our Thriver community group, sat on a call with 24 survivors, patients, people going through it on a call all across the UK. People sitting there in the cars, just at work, at home with their kids running around, just giving their time to feedback and give their lived experience and help shape our support services. That was incredible, as again, seeing that this is not about Rob anymore at all. This is about all these people here and all the faces that we don't get to see as well, that we impact. And then we brought together our first medical advisory board panel. So they are the leading experts on the clinical side, giving their, again, lived and clinical experience to shape our services to make sure that everything is completely sound, everything is completely covered. And that includes one of the clinicians that actually treated my brother. So really personal connection there as well. And that, again, just felt like an absolute moment. And then something I haven't talked about is the fact that my mother is also going through a stage 3 ovarian cancer diagnosis and has been for a couple of years. And the charity has built to a point where she is getting independent and completely confidential support from our nurse advisor. So we've built a charity that is now supporting our family through another cancer diagnosis that we never saw coming. So these sort of full circle moments that have happened in the last month has just compounded. Like, we started this charity at a music fundraising event, all day music event. I used to work in a bar. My friends organised this amazing event with loads of local bands playing, and we raised 1,500 quid selling T-shirts and begging for donations in pots. You don't do that anymore because no one has the cash. To building this amazing charity that's supporting our family in a different way all these years later, and seeing the impact it has for all these other families across the UK. It's just been, that's a hell of a ripple effect for me.
Yeah. Wow. I'm so sorry your family is going through this again. Like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, one of many, unfortunately, but just drives the mission forward, just makes it even more poignant, even brings it to the forefront every day, why it's so important, literally
Yeah.
lived it and still living it.
I'm sure, well, I'm hoping everyone listening to this is going, wow, you're doing such incredible work. How can people get involved? How can people support? How can people reach out? Like, what would you ask of the listeners and the YouTube watchers? Like, how can people get involved if they really want to support you? As well as like standing on the side of the London Marathon this weekend and cheering you on. How can people support?
Yeah, Haribo at London Marathon would be lovely. Thank you. But yeah, so just go to the website, robincancertrust.org. It's got all the ways you can get involved. So I think the first thing would be, can you help us raise awareness? So we have amazing outreach documents that we can send. If you can help us to your audience, your staff, your colleagues, amplify our testicular ovarian cancer awareness messages, we would love that. That'd be incredible. That's number one. If we can come in and deliver a talk, which we can do virtually or in person, again, to sort of any number, really, let us know. Just drop us a line on via the website or info@therobincancertrust.org. That, again, impact for us. We're reaching our demographic. People get to know all the signs and symptoms, educate, engage, and empower staff, colleagues. That could be football clubs. That could be anything like that. So we've got toilet poster doors that people can put up around their clubs, around their sports clubs, workplaces again. So amplify the awareness message would be the first one. If anyone wants to fundraise, it's always great. I should probably talk about that. We have an amazing Run 24 challenge where people can take on any sort of challenge around the number 24. So they can run for 24 hours, they can run 24 kilometers, or they get 24 people doing something, and we will facilitate that. It's a great program for easy activations. Again, they're amazing team building exercises for clubs, for workplaces, for teams anywhere in the UK. We can just make that happen. And then if anyone wants to volunteer or get out in the community with us, just drop us a line. We're all over the place. We've got people in Newcastle, Nottingham and Essex, and we can facilitate people going out to their own events, do the training, tell them what they need to know, and get stuff to them if they want to attend an event on behalf of the Robin Cancer Trust. So there's loads of ways of getting involved, and we would just love people to help us reach more people. Our vision is to reach every young person in the UK with our life-saving cancer campaigns, and then just make sure no one goes through a diagnosis alone. So if there's people know school governors, amazing. Secondary school governors are brilliant contacts for us. PSHE leads, brilliant contacts for us. Or if you hear friends talking about an amazing talk or speaker they had in their office, that usually is like a great program where we can go in and talk to HR and say, we know you have this thing. Can we come and do an awareness talk? So yeah, please just get in touch. The more the merrier. We love a warm lead. We'll follow up.
Amazing. I got tons of leads. We're having another
Thank
chat
you.
after this. Our final question on the ripple impact is always the same. So we call our guests wave makers because they are making waves on the world, on the industry, and on your case, on people's lives. What advice would you give to aspiring wave makers?
I would say my advice would always be, if you're looking to find your purpose, the charity sector is an amazing, high reward, low effort starting place. And I mean that by you can dip your toes into the front line of impact across a plethora of different industries and impacts all across the world by doing some volunteering. There's no great, you don't have to get involved on any great level. You don't have to go and get a job there. You can just say, I want to volunteer. I want to turn up at an event. I want to hand out literature. I want to learn. I've got these skills. Can I use them for you? Charities are crying out for volunteers. And it's a great way to see if that cause resonates with you. Most people in the world want to give back and have an impact, and charities are already doing that. So go and find some causes, local, global, international. There are people all around that are doing amazing work, giving out aid, helping people with medical issues across the world, or just, local food banks. And it's just, you see the humanity, you see the impact immediately. And I think it's a great way to find out what resonates with you. And if it's not right for you, just say, thank you for that wonderful opportunity. I'm going to go help another charity. Like I say, it's high potential with a low effort from you. And I think that's a great way to just, if you want to find a bit of purpose, that's a great way just to dip your toes in and start finding a breadcrumb trail that you can follow.
Amazing. Toby Freeman, thank you so much for sharing your story so openly, so honestly, with such heart. Your journey is such a powerful reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is potential to create something so beautiful and so life-changing. And yeah, the fact that you're changing thousands of people's lives and families is just incredible. So thank you so much. All the very best of luck for Sunday's London Marathon. I am sure there's going to be everybody cheering you on. We will share all the links to your incredible work in all the descriptions on the podcast. So please look out for that. Thank you for being on the show, and thank you for the incredible life-changing work that you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me. Really an absolute pleasure. And hopefully I'll see you after London Marathon as well. My legs are a bit better.
Yeah, exactly. We absolutely will. And if you're looking to elevate the human storytelling of your brand, please get in touch with us at The Ripple Impact so we can see how we can help your business grow. That is a wrap on this Ripple episode. Tune in weekly for more bold voices and inspiring wavemaker guests just like Toby. I'm Barber. This is The Ripple Impact. We will see you all next week, and we will see Toby going over the finish line at London Marathon. So all the very best for that. Thanks, everyone. Take care. See you next week.